The moon shone brightly, filling the room with its light. It was so intense that it shined like a spotlight. I raised my hand to keep its blinding brilliance out of my eyes. I felt its stare and disapproval. I always thought the moon was on my side. Why was it turning against me now? I looked down and saw a fox at my feet. I looked around, trying to understand where he had come from. All around me was black. In the fox's mouth was a long red feather. I reached down to take it from its mouth. As soon as I touched the feather, the ground beneath my feet disappeared and I began to fall backwards. A painful sensation emerged from my shoulders as wings pushed through the skin. I let out a howl of pain, only for my voice to be absorbed in the surrounding blackness. My descent into the hollow darkness increased. I tried to use the wings to fly, but I could not make them move. In front of me appeared a giant frog. His vast mouth was open wide, ready to devour me. I struggled harder, trying to make the wings work, only for them to remain lifeless. The frog unrolled his enormous tongue, launching it in my direction. I gave a cry of desperation. A gentle hand touched my shoulder. I jolted upright in my seat and met the cordial face of the stewardess. I blinked at her as her sweet voice told me that we would be arriving at the train station soon. She offered me a warm towel. I nodded my head in her direction as I took the towel from her tongs. She smiled again before moving on to the next passenger. The train wasn't very crowded. There were only a few passengers that had dared to travel so early in the morning. The sun was coming up over the horizon. Its morning light echoed its brilliance between the tall glass skyscrapers of Tokyo. Oversized animated advertisements greeted the train as it sped through the city. Mount Fuji was silently keeping watch in the distance. I took the warm towel and began to refresh myself. As I did, I looked at my reflection in the window of the train. I could partly see myself whenever the tall buildings cast their shadow over the tracks. My face had changed little over the many years, but the skin under my eyes looked tired, and rightfully so. I hadn't slept much in the last few weeks. The motion of the train must have been soothing enough for me to nod off. I knew I hadn't been asleep for very long. My plane had landed at the Tokyo airport, and I was heading home to the north side of the vast metropolis, to Adachi City, only an hour's ride. It wasn't the first time my subconscious had wrestled with that disturbing dream. It had been coming regularly a few nights a week for the past month. It wasn't always the same, but it always had the same elements: a red feather, a frog, or multiple frogs, and my wings returning. The only wings I had were the ones tattooed across my shoulders. My angelic wings had been gone for 16 years, since I became mortal. I felt there was a message in those dreams, but I didn't want to think too hard about what it could mean. I had wished so hard to lose my celestial nature and gain my mortal life. I didn't want to think about what those nocturnal images were trying to communicate. I had mentioned them to Emika once, after it had become apparent that they were coming regularly. She shrugged it off and said it was a sign that I had been working too hard. As I studied the city pass by in a hasty blur, I thought maybe she was right. I was on my way home from Bilbao, Spain. I had been there for the past 2 weeks overseeing the installation of my work as part of the permanent collection in the Guggenheim Bilbao Museum. It was quite an honor for an artist of my caliber and age to be recognized as an important figure in modern art history. Only I went on the trip, as the kids had school, and Emika needed to stay behind to take care of them. Since the birth of our twins, Aina and Naoki, I traveled alone for most of my trips for my work. When they were younger and school wasn't as important, we sometimes went as a whole family. But now the twins were in their first year of high school, and Hisa, the youngest, was in middle school. Studying, friends, and clubs had become their life while I traveled, setting up gallery shows and doing interviews.